Hi guys, John the Quant here. We're iPad only today because this is going to be a pretty short one. Now, I wrote an article recently. It's on Medium and it is also on johnthequant.com. Check for links in the description below. But the article is about Fermi estimation. Now, this is it's a quantitative reasoning technique made famous by Enrico Fermi. And if you want to learn more about how the technique is really done, what the steps are, then I recommend you go read that article. Right here, we're going to do an example. Well, questions like this are asked by big companies like Google, Deloitte, Ernst & Young, I think it's called EY now, McKinsey, big consulting firms. A lot of the time, they love to ask this kind of question. And I was talking on LinkedIn with a guy who had gone through an interview recently, and he said he was asked a question that completely threw him. And that question was, how many windows are there in Denver? How many windows are there in Denver? Now, this is the question we're going to answer. Here are our rules. 1, no calculator. 2, no Google. We're only going to use things that we know. And 3, you have 10 minutes. All right, let's go. How many windows are there in Denver? We're going to start by looking at what we want to know. And we want to know how many windows there are in Denver on buildings. I'm going to say that car windows don't count. This is windows on buildings only. And Denver's pretty big, so I'd expect the number of windows to be in the millions, right? So our final number should be greater than 1 million. I'd be okay with being pretty far off, maybe 20% off. So that's going to be my margin of error for confidence in estimations. All right, so now what kind of buildings are there? There are houses, stores, offices, hospitals. Now, let's say offices and hospitals the buildings themselves are pretty similar, window-wise, so we're going to lump those two together. And we're going to say there are houses, offices, and retail space. Let's break it down further. Total number of windows in houses is going to be equal to the average windows per house times the number of houses. And the same goes. The number in offices is going to be equal to the average per office, average windows per office times the number of offices, and the number in retail is going to be the average windows per retail space times the number of retail spaces. Sorry, sometimes when I try to write fast, I write letters out of order. Okay, let's go with houses first. Now there are, I think I read about 750,000 people in Denver. The average family size used to be 2 parents and about 2.3 kids. A special thanks to The Simpsons, because they're supposed to be an average family. They have 2.2? They have 2 parents, 2 kids, and 0.3 of a kid. But the average family size has actually been shrinking, so we're going to call it 2 parents and 2 kids, total 4 people. So we need 750,000 divided by 4, which is something like 185,000 households. I'm just doing that in my head real quick. Now, I used to live in an apartment downtown in Denver, and it had 3 windows. And now I live in a house, west of Denver. And my house has Let me count here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. 15 windows. Now, I bet the average is somewhere in between those, but probably closer to the high end. So let's call that, I don't know, 8 to 12 windows per house on average. That's 8 for the low end, 12 for the high end. So now we have 185,000 households. Houses, I'll call it houses, times 8 windows. And if we do that, 0, 0, 0, 40 here. What is this? 8 times 8, 68. 14. Is that right? 1,480,000 on the low end, and the same again, but with 12. 0, 0, 0, 0, 1, 16, 17, 2, 3, put the 0, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, put the 1 up there, 12. All right, so we have, let's call it 1,500 on the low end and 1,500,000 on the low end, 2,200,000 on the high end, and we're just gonna leave it there for now. Let's move on to offices. Offices. I've only worked remotely since moving to Colorado, so I don't know. Okay, all right. At my wife's work, there's about 1 window per office. Now downtown, though, some of those buildings are like all window, right? So if your office was on a corner and it was windows all around, it'd be 6 windows. Let's guess high. We'll guess high. Let's say 10 windows at the max. I bet the number of windows per person is different in old versus new buildings. More windows per person in newer buildings. No, I don't think that helps. I don't know anything about how old the buildings are. All right, so let's say that offices have 3 windows per person. And that's just a number that's between 1 and 6. I'm just throwing that out there. Okay, good. 3 windows per person. Let's get out of here. Retail. Let's see. I go to a coffee shop a lot of the time that has probably about 10 windows because it has windows in the front and the back. But I also go to another coffee shop that has no windows at all. And I've been to like a little boutique that has like 3 windows, yarn shop, 3 windows, Thai restaurant, 3 windows. Walmart has no windows. I am just going to make a statement that places of business have 2 to 8 windows per person, per employee, on average. Now, that is really just being pulled out of the air. It's a wild guess. It sounds reasonable. I really do not know. What I do know, and most people wouldn't know this, but a couple of weeks ago I was working on an econometric project, all right, is that 60% of people in Denver have a job. So since there are 750,000 people total, 60% is 450,000. So this is going to add on between 900,000 and 3.6 million windows. So let's add all of our windows numbers up, okay? So we have on the low end 1.5 million for the houses. 900,000 other. 3 is in this group, so I'm just going to combine these two. You see how that goes? These windows encompass both offices and retail. All right. When we add those up, we get, what do we get? 9 plus 5. Why is this hard? I did all the other stuff way easier. 4, 1, 2. There we go. About 2.4 million. And on the high end here, the high end of offices, we get $5.1 million. And on the high end of houses, low end of offices, thank God this one's easy. And high end of both, we get 5.8 million. Now, thinking a bit more, this 900,000 feels way too low, so just forget these. I just don't want to deal with them. So, our final estimate is somewhere between 5.1 million and 5.8 million. Let's just choose 5.5 million windows. And there's our final estimate. All right, that is a general idea of how to handle these problems. Like I said, if you want to learn more, go read my article on Fermi estimation. In general, the idea is that when you break the question down like this, all right, when you're doing one thing, you have one chance to get it right. You break it down like this, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 chances to get it right. We're going to get none of those right, but hopefully our errors are going to cancel out. And if enough of the error count cancels out, this is going to be really friggin' close. All right, if you learned something here, hit the like button. If you have anything to say, please leave me a comment. And if you want to keep learning with me, go ahead and subscribe. See you next time.